Sam Fisher, looking very dark. Well, it's better late than never, but this is part 2 of my Deutsche Bank videos. About the history of why it's failing and what happened. I left it with a rundown of the practices of big nation banks, central banks, and what the Chinese were, as the example of what the Chinese were doing with the Americans, for what Deutsche Bank was doing as being normal practice. I had been planning on putting some footage up from a few newsreels and whatnot, just to act as evidence for what I'm about to come out with. Unfortunately, YouTube being YouTube, I can't actually put that up because I kept getting copyright strikes at the time. Even before I even uploaded the video, they won't let me do it. So I will put links in below if I can. Just those clips are still up on YouTube. They're actually out of my own archive. We'll see how things go. I will definitely though put up the news articles that you can go to that are still up online on several mainstream newspapers' news archives until they're taken down eventually. Anyway, as I was saying, now, if you remember last time I was telling you about central banks mortgaging off land in countries that were desperate for an influx of cash, and I used the example of the Americans and the Chinese. Like I said, it's up now, which is why things are really starting to heat up between China and America. But anyway, the reason why I said that was because it was to show you how normal it was for these big central banks to do this, and why when Deutsche Bank did it, didn't really think anything of it. You know what I mean? They didn't think that. They thought it was a sure thing, which would give the EU a nice influx of money for a good long while, right? And ownership of the actual country, the land that the country is in. Well, the actual land itself, you know what I mean? Had a financial stake in it, financial ownership of it, because technically they bought it. Anyway, these deals sadly went awry, obviously because of the 2008 financial crash, which is when which was the first time when all this came to light. This was very, very, very hastily swept under the carpet, and there was only a couple of journalists that caught wind of it and managed to get a little bit of information out. As I said, it was swept under the carpet so fast, covered up so fast, and the people that were involved were unceremoniously let go, quietly of course. Now, the two people that were basically the ones at fault were the Investment Advisory Committee, which during the time was Philip May, Theresa May's husband, and the general manager that was who was above him and basically was the seal of approval for all these investments, which was Sajid Javid, both of whom left very quickly, I might add, and quite strangely in 2008, just after the financial crash. Well, Philip May did, just after the financial crash, and Sajid Javid did about a year or two later. Basically when he would have had to admit fault, basically, for what had been done, because it was his seal of approval. But the head of the investment advisory committee is in charge of all their. It's meant to guide the central bank to certain investment or acquisitions that would be beneficial and profitable for the bank. So he oversaw and was the final say pretty much on all investments. Those investments were the mortgages of the infrastructure, the land acquisition, like mortgages of these little Eastern European countries, all under Deutsche Bank, which would have netted the EU quite a lot of cash, right? Because as soon as you join the euro, you have a slightly higher hike in tax than they would normally pay, and for an indefinite period, because they basically interest on it, and they never get to a point where they actually pay off the interest. Effectively, the EU would own that country, because what they've mortgaged is, like I said, their infrastructure, which is their power supply, their gas supply, all that, all the gas fields, all the electric companies, the water companies, railways, if they've not been privatised already and sold off to European countries, would you believe? All the land that the roads are built on, that will be mortgaged because it's owned by the state. All the land that the railway tracks are on, or the land that they're on, that is owned by the state, so that can be mortgaged. All their ports, all their seaports, even their international waters are all up for grabs. If they do have international waters, a lot of them didn't because they were landlocked, obviously, but some of them did. Most notably in the Black Sea, in the case of Ukraine. So, yeah, so they've done all this, and then 2008 came. All of a sudden, there's a massive financial crash, and Deutsche Bank needs the money back. Oh dear! All these countries got these mortgages to prop up their books, to make it look solvent, so they could go into the EU, join the euro. Because they couldn't have broke countries doing this, could they? And of course, they couldn't pay the money back. Now, of course, this is, you could call it speculation, but it's just kind of obvious that Philip Bain would have been the one in charge in that, and Sadie Jagger would. It's basically his job description. It's what he was meant to do. So to say that Philip May wasn't involved in this is ridiculous, quite frankly. That was his job. Unfortunately, because it was his job, and because Deutsche Bank have billions and billions and billions of these German the German nation's coffers, you know, into these mortgages, to basically make, you know what, shit, to basically make these countries look solvent. But she agreed. It all of a sudden became Philip May's fault. Now, this isn't illegal. Well, not normally illegal, until the bank needs someone to blame. Nick Leeson found this out when Lehman Brothers collapsed, and he was basically on the run, owing billions. Well, that same job that Nick Leeson had, Philip May had the one that was higher up, who was in charge of all that, basically. And now he was the scapegoat. Not only that, so was Sachi Javid. Anyway, this bit I can't prove, but it stands to reason, and I've read enough of what the ex-civil servants and the ex-MPs that left Theresa May's cabinet said, and some of what David Cameron's sort of ex-cabinet have said. And I've had it told to me off a couple of other quite credible sources that there was a deal done because Theresa May was Home Secretary at the time, and it was basically, it was going to make the Conservatives look just completely unfit, basically, because their Home Secretary's husband is involved in dodgy dealings, dodgy financial dealings. I mean, this was on par with the Panama Papers, it really was. David Cameron, funnily enough, got away with, strangely. Anyway, Panama Papers, if you don't know what they are, I suggest looking it up, it's really interesting. Anyway, there was a deal struck. And this deal would involve Britain paying more than its fair share to kind of pay off Philip May's debt, if you will, to Deutsche Bank. And in exchange, we would essentially become the money pit. This is why Jean-Paul Juncker, Michel Barnier, Donald Tusk, Verhofstadt, all of them, Holst, all of them would refer to the UK as the EU's secret mattress full of money, or the EU's money pit, as we were paying double for a long, long while without even realising it. Firstly, through a lump sum, supposedly to bail out Royal Bank of Scotland, but the amount of money that they paid to bail out Royal Bank of Scotland was 2 to 3 times more than was actually needed. And that was because the other lump sum, 3 times, 2 thirds of it went to the EU, went to Deutsche Bank to bail that out. We then spent the next 10 years keeping Deutsche Bank afloat, keeping its head just above water, making it look like a viable sort of entity on the world stage, world economic stage, preventing it from going under, which would be absolutely disastrous for the EU economy. Even then, it was only a fledgling thing, the euro then, and that carried on for quite some time. But David Cameron started getting a bit cocky, started wanting to broker a more amicable, more easily sort of persuadable deal for the British public. After all, we had austerity, which is another thing. You'll notice that austerity came in about a year or two after the financial crash. Nothing to do with our banks. No, we weren't bailing out our banks. We were bailing out Deutsche Bank. Mark my words. This is where it all started, you see. So yeah, that was going on. And he was getting an election coming up. He was trying to negotiate better terms for our fisheries, which is a noble cause, you know what I mean? And Bodin says, well, fuck off. You know, do you think you are? Well, I'm the Prime Minister of the UK. I'm one of the key members of this outfit. No, you're not. No, you're not. We're the EU Commission, they said. We run this show. You're just a puppet. Fuck off. Sent him packing. Unfortunately, David Cameron had made a slight mistake. He promised the British public a referendum on the EU, whether to remain or stay or leave. Thinking It'll scare the EU, but the British public, they'll say, yeah, they're bound to, and if not, we'll rig it. Which is exactly what they did. You see, it's a little known fact. During the 2016 election, after we'd had Barack Obama, which I think pushed over most of the British public into voting for Leave after he stuck his oar in, not having an American to tell us what to do, get fucked. Yeah? But after that occurred, there was 53 exit polls done on the day of the referendum. Now I used to have the photo, unfortunately I don't anymore, but I have seen other YouTubers who have said exactly the same thing independently, right? Well, there were 53 exit polls done, and nearly 95 to 100% of those showed the Leave vote to be a 75% majority. This was a concern, a major concern, because without realising, David Cameron had awoken most of the British public who don't normally vote to vote this time. Why? Because it wasn't two sides of the same coin, it wasn't two faces of the same coin, it wasn't for two people, it's for an ideal we wanted to leave. So 70.4 million people voted to leave, which put the stuffed ballot, which was meant to be a landslide for Remain, to be a slight win for the Leave vote. This was cock up number one. This didn't look good for Remain, because not only had they stuffed the ballot and cocked it up, they'd also lost the referendum. This created a major problem. One, because the Leave side, if you notice, there was chaos in the Brexit camp. Straight out when they realised they'd won, because they weren't expecting to win, obviously. They weren't meant to. There was chaos on the Remain side because they couldn't believe they'd lost. They were shooing. Oh dear. So they needed another plan. And this is where the Deutsche Bank game really gets interesting. But I'll leave that for the next part. Okay, thanks for watching. Please, really, really please share this out. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Honestly, you're not gonna want to miss the next part. Okay, thanks a lot. See you later.